Welcome to Worldwide Wisdom. Today we're learning about coping with the chaos of our lives with the sensational discourse by the Alter Rebbe, delivered in 1807. It's called Mayim Rabim, the overwhelming, the tumultuous waters of our lives, and how we're going to manage to survive the chaos of our lives. Is a quick micro summary of what we've learned so far. The Alter Rebbe turns the flood on its head, as he quotes the verse from Isaiah, which calls it May Noach, the waters of Noach. Now, Noach means serenity. The name Noach means tranquility or serenity. So to call the flood of serenity is not just a paradox. It's infuriating. It's like calling it it's actually insensitive. Think about that for a second. It's like calling it the Holocaust of peace. Like what exactly is that supposed to mean? It's a very jarring statement by Isaiah the prophet. And the foundation principle that the Alter Rebbe lays down for us is that everything that happens in this world comes from God. God does not make mistakes. And there's only two kinds of things that come from God. There's revealed good and there's hidden good, but there's no such thing as evil. The revealed good we know. The hidden good is far more complex. It's far more sensitive, far more subtle. The purpose of the hidden good, what is even hidden good? The hidden good means that just like the flood waters, what did they do? They purified the world. They didn't, like a mikveh. They rained for 40 days and 40 nights, like the mikveh measurement, which is 40 sa'ah. Just like the waters of the flood raised Noach and his family higher than they were originally, so too at the top of the flood waters, so too we experience our floods as well. What is the floods of our lives as well? That is the financial anxieties of our lives. What is the purpose of the financial anxieties? It's not there to break you. It's there to build you. How does that happen? So we explained the way that happens is that when a person, contrast an angel to a human being. An angel lives up in the spiritual worlds of Yetzirah or Bria. That's where the angels hang out, right? He doesn't know a dollar from a hamantash. He doesn't know the difference, right? I mean, think about it. Remember the Gemara in Shabbos 88b? We learned this together. When Moses goes up to the mountain and he's here to receive the Torah, the angels are like, God, what's at the Torah? And God says, yeah, I'm giving it to him. Him? You're giving it to him? The son of a man? Son of a woman? You laid Isha? The angels are flummoxed. Right? Is that 1x or 2x's?
1x.
1x, flummoxed, right? They're like, what? Why would you do that? And then the angels begin to challenge Moses, and they're like, why would you, corrupt, puny human being, be worthy of God's most precious, cherished treasure, which is the Torah? And Moses says, well, do you guys have parents that you have to honor? They're like, no, we don't. Do you guys have any desire to steal, that you need to be commanded, thou shalt not steal? Do you have a desire to murder, that you should need to be commanded, thou shalt not murder? Were we ever enslaved in Egypt? Now, this is not just a historical narrative, but he's asking them, have you ever struggled with a power within you that is stronger than you? Have you ever had a desire within you that drives you so gut meshugeh that you cannot experience on the outside the convictions that you bear on the inside, that you carry this cognitive dissonance between Pharaoh, who is our crushing taskmaster, who is our ego, that makes us say things that we don't mean, that makes us do things that we're going to regret. So in other words, Moses is using the human flaws as his advantage, which is like really mind-blowing. And ultimately the angels are like, you know what, you're right. And we're left scratching our heads at the end of this piece of Talmud. Like, what did he tell them? What was so sensational? I mean, Harvey here, you've got a tremendous amount of experience of trial law, right? Imagine you were representing Moses at that particular case. It's a little intimidating, You're standing up to the angels, and you're standing in the presence of God Almighty. I mean, think about how you would prepare your case. You'd try to get it as watertight as possible. But here, Moses, what does he do? He's talking about the human flaws, because we have an evil inclination, because we have a desire for adultery and for idolatry and for ego. That's why we get in the Torah. And the angels, they buy into this. What just happened? It doesn't actually make any sense. Now, on a very shallow level of interpretation of that piece of Talmud, I'm sorry I didn't quote it here directly in the class from the original because I don't want to get too sidetracked, but it's a good discussion, especially we, the scholars of the community, right? Worldwide wisdom. We've learned this Talmud before, so we can just whip it out of our sleeve like that. We can reference and say, hey, and if you don't, you should look it up. The Talmud's right here. You look up Tractate Shabbos 88b. It's right here somewhere in the brown volumes. Look it up and read it. It's beautiful. Or you can Google it. Shabbos 88b, the discussion between Moses and the angels. Anyways, so on a very shallow, superficial level, Moses is saying, well, since the Torah references like Google search, like a references father, honor father, mother, you don't have a father or mother. Since it says thou shalt not murder and you don't know what murder is, it's a very shallow level of interpretation. But on a far deeper level of interpretation, what's going on over here is that Moses is saying, you guys, Nebuch, you only have good to deal with. You only deal with the light. You don't even know what darkness is. You don't even know what darkness is. So what's the point of you guys having the Torah? Now, what does that mean? What is Moses telling them? That the purpose of Torah is within darkness. The purpose of Torah, we learned this last week, that God created the world in a way where this world is a world of tikkun, of order, but it was preceded by the world of chaos, the world of tohu, right? The world of tohu exploded, the shattering of the vessels. It became a corruption, just like Esau and Jacob, where both of them were meant to be good, but it turned out that Esau he blew the vessels, and he ended up being a sinner. But at his core, at his root, he was actually a very powerful energy that was misguided, right? So our purpose as Jews is to encounter the darkness and to transform it into light. When we do that, something sensational happens. Alter Rebbe quotes a major theme in Tanya, quoting the Zohar. He says, "Kad iskafia sitra achra, estale kekoro dekuchubrichu b'chulu almin b'shove." What was that?
Overcome the evil.
When the key word, you use the word overcome. I want to use that very sensitively. There's even transformed is a different word. It says there's two words which I want you to get familiar with. There's iskafia and there's ishapcha. You said transform, that's ishapcha. You said what word you used? Overcome. Now, overcome could be a general term for both. Iskafia means suppression. And I really want you to encourage you to add this word into your lexicon. Iskafia, Iskafya. Iskafya. Major theme of Tanya. Iskafya means suppression. Before you even get to transformation, that's a little later, it's more advanced. But even before suppression, the Alter Rebbe asks before the transformation, the Alter Rebbe asks a very foundational question when he talks about these two levels. You got the tzaddik and the beinoni, right? The tzaddik and the beinoni. The tzaddik is the perfectly righteous Jew, and the beinoni is the struggling Jew, right? Let's look at them in all strata of reality. A few strata, right? We've got Esau and Jacob, right? Jacob and Esau. Jacob's the tzaddik. Esau's the beinoni, the one who's struggling, right? Well, he's a Rasha. The Rasha is a beinoni when he's able to control himself at those moments. Remember, it's not a zero-sum game. At every moment in time, very important, you are right now at this moment, are you a tzaddik, a Rasha, or a beinoni? Which one?
Yes.
The answer is yes. Correct. When it comes to the sin of murder, some of us around this table have no desire to murder anybody. Some of us might. So those that have no desire are tzaddik. Those that do have a desire and are curbing it right now are beinoni, right? Those that are actually doing it, how could somebody be murdering somebody at this table? If you say lashon hara, which is evil talk about someone else, then what you're doing is that the Gemara considers that tantamount to murder. So that's a Rasha. You can have three people in this room right now. One is a tzaddik when it comes to this. One is a beinoni. One is a Rasha when it comes to this, right? So we're constantly in flux, right? We're constantly in flux about our status. So yes, we're at every moment in time we could be moving from tzaddik, Rasha, beinoni at all times. It's not like you get a scorecard, like an average at the end. When it comes to sort of mitzvahs, out of 613, break up the 613. Maybe 400 of 613 I have no desire to sin on. Okay, so I'm a tzaddik. The other 213, maybe I struggle with 13 of them, and the other 200 I don't actually sin. So I'm able to differentiate. Right now, let me just not lose my train of thought here. That we said that we analyze in different strata. Right? We said that there's the No, hang on. Before that, I said Esau and the tzaddik and the Benini, right? So you got the tzaddik and the Benini. The tzaddik is Yaakov, and the Benini is Esau, right? I wrote about this on Friday, an essay about Leah being the hated wife, right? And there's Rachel, the beloved wife. Rachel represents perfection, and Leah represents struggle, painful struggle, right? Right? Look at that. If you remember the essay that I wrote, and if you're able to remember what we learned about last week, who was more beloved between Esau and Jacob?
Esau.
Isaac wanted to bless Esau.
Right.
Who was more beloved between Rachel and Leah?
Rachel.
Tricky. Look, Rachel and Leah. Maybe you didn't read the essay, but yes, Rachel was more beloved to Jacob. Because remember, Jacob identifies with Rachel. They're both tzaddik. But who does God favor, Leah or Rachel? Leah is far more fertile. She becomes the mother of the Jewish people, the majority of the Jewish people. You know, kings, Moses, Aaron, King David, Mashiach, everybody comes from Leah, right? In other words, God is saying, Jacob says, I prefer the angel over the human. I prefer Jacob over Esau. I prefer Rachel over Leah, right? I prefer the tzaddik over the Beinoni. But God says, not so fast. God says, I prefer darkness over light. I prefer Esau over Jacob, Leah over Rachel, Beinoni over the tzaddik, which is why the Alter Rebbe asked the question in Tanya, and he says, is God a sadist? Is God a sadist? He didn't say those words, I'm sorry. This is paraphrasing, forgive me. The Alter Rebbe wouldn't speak like that. But he says like this. He says, the tzaddik can only become a tzaddik by divine invitation, gift. Only when God gives you the ability to crush your evil desire can you become a tzaddik. But for most of us, we're not given that gift. We have to struggle with suppression our entire lives. So Alter Rebbe asks, why would God do this? Why would God want us to suffer, to struggle our entire lives for the next 87, 97 years? You're going to struggle with curbing your appetite when God could have just made it easy for you. Could have given you a little Harry Potter magic wand here. You'd have liquidated or neutralized your evil inclination. Life would be good. And the Alter Rebbe comes with an amazing chiddush. He says, when the other side, when the darkness is suppressed, it releases the infinite light of God over all the worlds equally. In other words, God's infinite light radiates everywhere when we transform darkness into light. There's two kinds of foods, the sweet and the savory. Which is better? Obviously, everybody likes sweet. Everybody likes Jacob over Esau. Everybody likes Rachel over Leah. Obviously, everybody likes the tzaddik over the Beinoni. But it takes a mature, wise palate, a wise person, a sophisticated palate, to be able to say, not so fast. I prefer the savory over the sweet. I prefer the savory over the sweet. This is what Isaac tells Esau. He says, make me two kinds of foods before I bless you. Make me the sweet and the savory. Because he's not just asking for a menu here. The Torah doesn't just record this unnecessary detail just so we should know what Isaac's ordering preferences were in the restaurant. That's irrelevant. The purpose was for us to understand that the sweet, which obviously everybody appreciates and understands, but the savory, which is the power to suppress and ultimately transform. It's iskafia and then ishapcha. When you're able to experience iskafia and ishapcha, now you're talking achievement. And this is Moses' answer to the angels. Moses says, what are you guys capable of? In other words, at first glance, knee-jerk reaction, who's better, an angel or a human being? Obviously an angel. But think about it, folks. What does God need you for? An angel?
Angels can't even move on their own.
Yeah, why can't they move on their own? We say that Amida with 1 foot,
Right.
1 foot together, because an angel, according to the prophecy of Cheskel, I think it was, he says the angel only has 1 foot and human beings have 2 feet. What does it mean? An angel is 1 foot, not that they're physical beings. It means that just like a person with 1 foot cannot progress, the angel cannot progress. He is what he is and he cannot reinvent himself. But a human being, Cheskel? Yeshayahu, my father says Isaiah, and I will give you walkers. You will walk amongst these standers. The walking amongst the standing. You know, it's kind of like the analogy of the hare and the tortoise, right? Right. The tortoise was so the hare was all arrogant. I can take a nap under the tree, right? And the tortoise slowly but surely ultimately came to the finish line, right? The human being is far, 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 far less than the than the angel. But the angel cannot reinvent himself. Only the human is able to reinvent himself. What does it mean to reinvent himself? It means I can start off a narcissist and I can become a mensch. Now, that's not easy. I don't think it's ever been done before in the history of mankind, but apparently, supposedly, it's mankind. It's possible that you start off codependent because you experienced trauma and abuse in your early childhood, and you became a people pleaser. And now you're in a marriage where you don't know how to experience intimacy because all you know is how to please your partner without knowing how to step up to your Kabbalistic role of the giver, which we've discussed in recent days. And all you are is essentially a taker, right? And now you got a messed up marriage and you want to jump ship. But the walker there is able to reinvent himself. The human being is able to take an abusive, dysfunctional childhood and turn it, to break it in the vicious cycle and to become a healthy parent. You know, the legend goes, I've never verified this for certain, that the game of chess was invented by?
Parsis and Persians.
You say the Persians, but the legend goes, who invented the game of chess?
The Jews.
King Solomon. Heard of
King
it?
Solomon.
King Solomon. Is that verified somewhere?
Yeah.
It is verified. Where's it verified?
No, Solomon made it.
It says, where does it say that?
I read it
In the holy books. Okay. So I don't have a reference.
I retract my assertion.
No, there is a school of thought that says the Persians. But anyways, so is that what you said, Persians? So anyways, why do I say the game of chess? Because think about this for a moment. There's only one king. That's Hashem. The queen represents the highest. Sorry, the marriage part. Who does God marry at Mount Sinai? The Jew. God marries the Jews. But then you have these very powerful pieces that are the bishops, rooks, and the knights. They go very far. They sweep across the whole board. These are the angels. Very powerful. Much more powerful than the puny little pawns. The pawns do one step at a time. Maybe at the beginning they do two steps. And if you fancy, you do an en passant, right? If you right? If you can do an en passant. But that's as far as it goes.
This will go the other end.
No, he's able to do the back door. He goes to the back door. Oh, hang on. So that's the catch. That's the catch. Suppressed, right? The catch is that the puny little pawn, one step at a time, actually is able to reinvent himself to become a queen. And that's the partner of the king. So in other words, the angels are far more powerful. The knights, the bishops, and the rook, they're far more powerful. They make mincemeat out of the pawns. But the pawn is the Jew, is the soul, who's able to reinvent himself entirely to become something which is the partner of God. And that's what Moses says to the angels. This is what Moses telling the angels. He's like, why do you guys need the Torah? You guys are just rooted to the spot. You're unable to change. You can't reinvent yourself. You're just dealing with light. You don't even know the definition of darkness. If you saw trauma or abuse or dysfunction, you wouldn't even know what it is. It's us that experienced all the above that are able to transform the darkness into light. You can give God sweet foods, but we can give God savory foods, and that is sensational. Now, this is what the Alter Rebbe calls resurrection of the dead in our spiritual lives. Because what happens here is that by you, by me, by us encountering financial anxieties, our personal flood, we're forced to meditate. And we spoke about the 5 levels of meditation. I'm not going to review them right now, but when you go through the meditation and you remind yourself that instead of being afraid of my financial anxiety, instead of being afraid and being nervous and being anxious and being shutting down and all the other normal human knee-jerk reactions, my meditation will remind me that I'm in the presence of Hashem. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23, and he reads all the Psalms that he possibly can, and he finds his faith in order to flatten his fear. How's that for alliteration, right? If he's able to do that, then now what happens? Now he takes the darkness, and he uses the darkness as a springboard for light. He uses the negative to bolster his faith. He's made savory foods. Now, he's serving God not only with his godly soul like an angel might, but also with his animal soul, which an angel wouldn't have even any idea what to do with. An angel doesn't have an animal soul, because the animal soul is the one that's worried about the money in the first place. And when the animal soul is now mitigated his anxiety, it's like taking an ox and putting it onto the yoke, put the yoke onto it, so now it starts pulling the cart, right? Now you've used Rav Tvois, B'kech you've used the power of the ox to service your higher intentions, right? Now you're serving God not only with your godly soul, but b'chol levavecha, with both of your hearts. Remember, there's an extra bet in that word, with your heart. You can't translate this word, but it's got an extra number 2 in the word, an extra letter bet, which is number 2, to tell us that we're serving God not only with your godly soul's heart, but also your emotional, your animal soul's heart. You're serving God with your beast as well as with your beauty. Both of them are used to serve Hashem, and that is a sensational chiddush. Let's analyze this in the text. What you've now done is you've resurrected the dead. You've taken a beast and you turn it into a beauty. You've taken your animal soul and you've made it something which is able to approach the divine. And that's the purpose of why we're in this world. And that's why the flood is called Mei Noach. The flood is called the waters of serenity, because the waters there, though tumultuous, though chaotic, though fearful, though inciting, though drowning initially, once you learn how to swim, once you learn how to float, how to tread water, once you learn how to build a boat, now you're actually able to turn that negative into positive. You're able to turn that into your advantage. Let's just look at this in the text over here. I'm on page 167. I'm going to finish this section of the book so we can move on to the next book. Page 167, Resurrection. It says, therefore, precisely through the descent and investment of the godly soul within the animal soul, engaging in worries and thoughts of parnasa, of making a living, engaging in thoughts of physical matters, these being the many waters mentioned above. And that could also include, health issues and war issues and political issues. Can you imagine people like having a heart attack over the presidential election, right? This happens. And this could include, when you drive by and you see the price of gas on the side of the gas station, when you see, this is all the above. It's all the mishigas of this world, right? It can reach the level of the love of bechol me'odecha, where you love God with all of your heart. No, hang on. Bechol levavecha means your hearts. Or bechol nafshecha, in all of your life. Or bechol me'odecha, with all of your. Well, it translates me'odecha translates with all of your very. With all of your very, Very. That's what you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say love God with all your heart, your hearts, with all your life, and with all of your very. What does it mean with all of your very? Now, we've translated other times to mean money, resources, but in this context, it doesn't even mean money. It means with all of your being, with the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what it means. With all of your passion. In other words, what's a human being, a normal human being's passion? What is a normal human being passionate about? Ordinary, non-spiritual human being. Passionate about money. Why? Is where it comes money. Because what I say money in Hebrew? Kesef. What does kesef mean? What's kesef? Kesef means nichsof nichsafti. Comes from the last week's Torah portion. Nichsof nichsafti. I have my soul passionately yearns. That's what it means. It's passionate yearning. The word money in Hebrew, kesef, means passionate yearning. Because this is what a person is normally passionate about, right? So when it says that you can serve God with all of your being, it means you can serve God with all of your passion. With all, normally your financial anxieties are things that you're passionate about, but now you can take the financial anxieties and use them as springboards to serve God because you've meditated and you've come to recognize that even with I'm just in the middle of a sentence. Sorry, that even in the middle of even in the middle of your financial anxieties, you can use that anxiety, which could have schlepped you down, as something that now makes you even more devoted to God. Because now you realize, like, wow, Hashem is in every single part of my life. This is beyond what the soul could accomplish before its descent into the body, when it merely enjoyed the radiance of the Shekhinah. Before the soul came down to this world, it was like, just like enjoying life. It was like tanning on the beach, just enjoying the radiance of God from a safe distance. But now what happens is, now you enter into much closer into God's essence, because what you're doing is that you're experiencing iskafia, which we just learned about, suppression, and ishapcha, which is transformation. And when you do both of those, then what do? You're unleashing God's infinite light. Before the soul descended into this world, was experiencing God's finite light. Limited light, comfortable. But when it experiences this transformation and suppression, now you've been able to tap into God's essence. Now you've got a whole different kettle of fish. Now you've risen much, much higher than when you started off originally. Let's see in the text. In other words, by means of iskafia and ishapcha, subduing and sublimating, I translated it as suppressing and transforming the darkness of this world, there is a much greater light. As the Tanya says, the light that you unleash is the infinite light of God, the unlimited light. Before the soul descended into this world, into financial anxieties, it was not able to engage in God's infinite light. You had no access to that department. You could not access infinity before you descended into this world. And that's what Moses tells the angels. You guys are only able to enjoy God's radiance on a finite, limited level. You cannot experience God's unlimited light because you don't know how to transform darkness into light. It's only human beings that by struggling with darkness and suppressing the darkness and transforming the darkness are able to encounter God's infinite light. And that is why financial anxieties will lift you up higher than you've ever reached before. In the verse quoted above, the falling of the light is indicated by, and he reigned and he died. The light was said to die, and as a result of iskafia, it is resurrected from the dead. You're able to transform your animal into a servant of God. What was your question, Mordechai?
Is there anything holier that a Jew can do than honor those who left this earth and honor them in your sight? Is there anything holier?
I don't know how that connects to what we're talking about, though. I'm not sure if that's got anything to do with. Is there anything holier that a Jew can do than honoring the deceased? I'm going to say the opposite of that. I'm going to say that actually the Christians will tell you when somebody passes away, they'll tell you that the person is in a better place. But the Jews won't say that. Why not? Because we don't believe that that's a better place. In heaven, you're able to, wherever you reached is where you reached, right? In heaven, you're like an angel where you cannot reinvent yourself through more mitzvahs. In this world, so in this world, you're engaging with challenges. In this world, you're able to overcome suppression and transformation. In this world, you can experience God's infinity. So perhaps, maybe I would agree with you, Mordechai, perhaps by saying this, that in this world, when we honor the dead, in other words, not the focus being on the deceased, but when in this world we channel our acts of transformation of darkness into light for the memory of the deceased, they who can no longer elevate themselves because they're rooted to whatever limited ray of godliness they're able to experience, when we honor them from this world to there, then I would think they would be able to experience quantum leap in terms of their elevation. I hope that answers your question. What?
Being altruistic in this world.
Altruistic.
You're doing something in this world that
For
is
others.
totally
For others.
without
Without
yourself.
Oh, so when you say altruism, I think the word altruism means that you're breaking your natural setting of ego.
No, altruism means you're not doing it for yourself.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Entirely
I know,
for somebody
but
else.
you're overcoming your ego. Your default setting is ego is ulterior motive, right? To do something selflessly, altruistically means that you're actually doing something which is like unhuman. For a human being as a self-surviving, self-preservation instinct. For you, I'm talking Kabbalistic, we're learning Chassidus right now.
You're right.
So I'm just saying that to be able to reach a level where you're doing something altruistically, that's amazing. That means you've actually transformed the darkness into light. You've taken the ultimate darkness, which is paroi, which is ego, and you've said you've slaughtered Pharaoh. That's what you've done. You've taken Pharaoh and you said you have no power over me because my ego no longer controls me. Let's just summarize everything we learned of here in the chapter 2 review in the text. Okay. The flood waters, we got 10 points of here. The flood waters are called waters of Noach because Noach means tranquility of spirit. Naicha derucha. Higher and lower Naicha derucha correspond to 2 levels of Shabbos. The 40-day flood came but to purify the corrupted earth, like a 40 se'ah mikvah, cleanses impurity, creating the tranquility associated with Noach's name. Abraham chose servitude over purgatory when God gave him the choice for his descendants, because both servitude and purgatory serve as a means of spiritual ascent and purification for the soul. Abraham understood that God wasn't out to hurt him as much as God was giving him the opportunity to reinvent himself, something which a an angel is never able to experience. Today's servitude isn't taxation, but the burden of earning a living. Unlike temple times when divine blessings provided supernatural abundance, through engaging with worldly many waters, the soul can rise higher than its pre-embodied state, transforming darkness into light by subduing and sublimating material concerns. Daily immersion in physical matters becomes spiritually elevating through meditation during prayer. Contemplating everything it has a spiritual source above, leading ultimately to God's essence. Deep contemplation ignites the soul with love and yearning to escape physical constraints and unite not with the spiritual realm, but with God's very essence. This all-consuming love, coming specifically from darkness, is called B'chol Modecha. It is the essence of Teshuvah, boundless love that emerges from engaging with mortality and worldly concerns. You would never be able to reach that infinite love if not that you were dealt with suppression. The animal soul's source is higher than the godly souls, originating from the world of Tohu, which gives it superior power that can be harnessed for spiritual purposes. We learned this, that Esau has far greater potential than Jacob. Tohu is far more powerful than Tikkun. And that's why when you encounter darkness, the darkness transformed is far, far more powerful than the light on its own, just like a beast is far more stronger with pulling the carriage than a human being would be pulling the carriage, right? And that's why, finally, through the godly's ascent into the animal soul and engagement with worldly matters, it achieves the limitless love of B'chol Modecha, representing a spiritual revival of the dead, revivifying the sparks that have fallen into our world. And with that, folks, I'm going to end it today. We're not done with this discourse. It continues as it goes even more into avoda, into personal divine service of our relationship with God on a very practical level. So stay tuned. And don't forget, you can watch the whole playlist here. It's on our YouTube, youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. Just look out for the Mayim Rabim playlist and you'll see it all over there.
Wow.
Okay.